Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So I'm doing a video today in response to some questions I got from the last video. What we did recently was we had a video about homes and the home situation and what people should do if they needed to buy a home right now or if they needed a home right now. Here's the message I was trying to get out there is right now, if you're not used to watching market trends, financial trends, housing trends, those types of things, then you don't really see the writing on the wall currently. So let me get this message out there. You know, there's a saying that hard men make good times make soft men, and soft men make bad times. Well, we're now in that last part. We had hard men that made good times when you're talking about World War II and coming out of that. And at that time, parents passed things down. So young folks started out with a little bit of wealth or a little bit of property or something to get their lives going. And then that period of time, it cultivated a generation, it's the greatest generation that's ever lived in American history anyway, that basically hogged all that wealth for themselves and still to this day consume that and hold that and are not passing anything down to the next generation. So it started pretty much with Gen X, and then everybody after that has suffered the same situation, unless Gen Xers turned it around and did something for their children, which would be the millennials or a little later. And I say these things because we have a hard situation where we measure ourselves up against the people that came before us. And you can't exactly do that because our parents and grandparents were given things by their parents. I've used examples before. My grandparents worked above my grandfather's parents' store. They lived above the store and they worked in the store. So not only did they have a job and a home because of his parents, they were supported in that capacity until they both turned 31. And when they turned 31, they then bought their own place and moved away from home and started their own situation, a family, and everything else. I say that because they didn't have to go out in the world to suffer like we have to today. And, you know, parents are less and less of an example for us. They're having children at a younger age. More parents these days are having kids outside of wedlock. And when you think about the deterioration of civilization, all those things add to that. So I won't go back and forth on what that means, but here's the gist of it. If you go back and you look at all history, the histories that we can study now that had the most successful runs, had the most successful people, and the citizens were the most successful and the wealthiest and the most comfortable in those period of times, that all comes from Western civilization. Okay? Eastern civilization has a lot of success too, but those people are doing that holistically on their own in a very rural type setting. When you talk about Western civilization, when you're talking about communities, cities, things of this nature, if it doesn't run by the rules that Western civilization is based on, which is Christian rules basically, it starts to come apart. It starts to get to the point where what we're seeing now, and this comes from soft people making bad rules that were to serve people who were not the ones who actually pay for the world. So the point that I'm getting at is this. If you're an American landowner that's a taxpayer, you do everything you're supposed to do in life and pay taxes and you live morally because you can keep a job and you don't have an arrest record, etc., etc. It suggests that you're living by those Christian Judeo standards, right? And you're doing the things that the Ten Commandments or the Golden Rule tells you to do. There are people that live outside of that at younger ages and then come around to those understandings of life as they get older because wisdom will beat you into shape. If you don't learn, then life gets really, really tough or it doesn't go on, right? So that's kind of how it works when it comes to getting people beat into shape on how things should work. If you look at Western civilizations around the world right now, France and England, for example, they have a bunch of foreign invaders there, and they're not protecting the citizens against these invaders. So the citizens are having awful things happen to them in their own homes, and their government ultimately will pay the price for that. Right now, the government's got the strong arm over the people because the first thing they did was disarm the people. And a disarmed populace, those are no longer citizens. Those are now subjects. Okay, so Americans still, for the most part, understand that your right to bear arms, your freedoms that come by birth, that are protected by the Constitution. The Constitution is not to limit the people, but to limit the government. And so when you have a government that constantly tries to chip away at the Constitution, when they take an oath, when they get into office to protect the Constitution, they're doing that for specific purposes. And historically, if you look at countries that did that, look at Australia, look at England, those are good examples because that's fresh. These are things that's happened in the last 100 years. Those people used to be well armed and protected themselves not only against invaders, but their own government. Well, the government took their ability to protect themselves away and then put all these invaders in their own country. They say it's illegal immigrants or immigration, and brought all those people into the country because they're expecting the votes to swing the vote this way or that way to be more favorable. The only thing they're doing is attacking the citizens of those countries. So those citizens need to oust that government and need to change the situation and get back to the point that they can arm themselves and protect themselves, because women, children, and the elderly are the ones who are the victims most readily by these foreign invaders. Okay, so you can look at the sexual assault statistics, you can look at the home invasion statistics, you can look at all these statistics about crime, violent crime specifically, that is been put upon these citizens. And if you watch, it's just very curious that as the immigration numbers increased, these crimes also increased as well. And some people will try to make the argument, well, these people don't have anything, they're doing this. Fine. But these citizens didn't vote for that. Okay. And the people that did vote for that and let that happen in their government, they're well protected behind big gates and everything else. And they have armed security and those type things. And so the peons, the plebes, the citizens who actually vote and pay taxes, they're the ones that suffer. So let's jump to America and get to the point. So all that's just to justify what we're saying now with Western civilization. You can see ebb and flows, you can see ups and downs, and you can see trends. So I predicted 2008. I knew that was going to happen. I've seen some videos recently from that time. A lot of people are thinking about that now because the same trends we saw then we're starting to see now, which suggests the housing market will bust in the next 2 years. Guys, it's got to. You can't have a house that's worth $150,000 selling for $1.2 million and expect that to last. The problem, though, is everyone that owns those homes, and we say own, so let me say it this way. Everyone that lives in one of those homes that has it mortgaged at these huge rates, when this market busts, their house will no longer be worth what they have it mortgaged for. So they'll be incredibly upside down. So my suggestion, if people are buying homes and properties now, it's not that you buy a house on a property, it's that you buy a mobile home and put it on raw land. If you do that, you're protecting yourself from this bubble burst that is coming. One of the things I'll say is this, and this is kind of the point of the video. This young lady was aggressive and she was upset that I put the video, and she said, yeah, just go out and buy a house, just go out and buy. So here's the point. If you have a steady job and a steady paycheck, you need to ask yourself, what are you getting for this steady job and this steady paycheck? In the last mortgage crisis is what they called it. This is what happened. Basically, the government said, lend this loan. As a lender, you have no choice. People tried to call it discretionary lending because people were buying these loans, and they tried to say these were predatory loans, not understanding how the loan business works. And this was attorneys that were saying this. And they did a bunch of false lawsuits, some saying that black people were predated upon, Hispanic people were predated upon. Long story short, there was a stated income plan that people took to buy houses. So let's say I know that with my hustling and everything else, I make $50,000 a year. Okay. So when I buy a house at that time, I didn't have to give a W-2 to show, hey, I make $50,000 a year. I knew based on what I had in cash and what I had in my bank account that that's what I was making theoretically. So I would tell them, well, I make $50,000 a year. The problem was at that period of time, people wanted a bigger, nicer house. And they didn't think that I'm actually going to have to pay for this house, right? So those people would then say, instead of saying the $50,000 a year that they actually make through their hustling, they would say, well, I make $100,000 a year. I make $150,000 a year. I make $1 billion a year. And so they get this massive house with this massive payment that they could not afford. So they tried to call that predatory lending. It was not. If a bank has a loan that you can offer, then legally you have to offer it to a customer that qualifies through what that customer tells you, or that is discretionary lending. So if there's a loan offer that you know this person can qualify for and you don't offer it to them, you are now being discretionary in the lending that you're doing, which is illegal. So that's why a lot of banks and stuff were charges filed against and nothing happened, and loan officers, people went after them, but nothing happened because that's the law. They have no choice. If it's available, they have to offer it. Now, the jigginess is where people claimed if they knew they only made like 30 to 50 grand a year and they claimed they made 100 or 150 because those houses were nicer, that was on them, the borrower. Okay, those are those people that are lying. Where the dishonesty happens, that's the issue. So other people who did do predatory lending, what they did was they offered people interest-only loans, which meant in 5 years, the thing would adjust and you would want to refinance before then. But for the first 5 years, you were just paying interest-only payments. So you could buy a massive house and have a very small payment because you were just paying against the interest. You weren't even touching the principal. So that in itself is a predatory loan because the people are making payments, but they're not actually paying out the principal. And in 5 years' time, they'll still have the whole principal standing in front of them and a big amount of interest that they had been paying against for that first 5 years. So that could be confusing, but I say all that because that situation is the situation that we're walking up to now. Not that we have issues with the lending, but now we have issues with the valuation. So now we're saying a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that was worth 150 grand 15 years ago, we're saying it's now worth 1.5 million. That's insane. That's insane. So what we've seen happen is because there's a housing demand in the United States, and there always has been a housing shortage in the United States, then that's the issue. How did that happen? Well, it happened that generations don't live at home together anymore. So it used to be grandparents, parents, and kids would live at home until the kids got married or when the kids went off to school. So you'd have 3 generations living in one house. Well, since this greedy group of people that came before us in that greatest generation's children, right, the boomers, those people consumed everything. They wanted the kids out of the house at 17. They wanted to keep the house. They're not taking care of grandma and grandpa. They're putting them in a nursing home and all that. So all that created a greater housing demand because generationally people weren't staying in homes together anymore as a family. So you saw that happen. And then you had people move across the United States. So you saw a proliferation of movement across the country. So that happened. That created bigger demand on housing. And then, of course, you have all the foreigners that have been brought in here illegally. And this was done on purpose. These people that are acting as legislators, they also have money in banks and they invest in these things. So if it fails, then they can buy up these properties and everything for cheap, for pennies on the dollar, and just get that much richer. That's how that works. That's why the richer get richer and the poor get poor. Okay, so that's how that works. What I'm trying to do is give you tools to prevent yourself from being a victim of this next crisis. And it's a crisis because it's going to destroy people completely. And what I mean by that is financially, you will not recover from it for more than a decade or better. So if you've bought a house, if you've mortgaged a house in the last 3 years, you're buying a house right now, or you're going to mortgage a house in the next year or two before this all happens, you're going to be extraordinarily upside down on your home value and when this all happens, when the market takes a burst, which it's going to do, guys. It's cyclical. You can see it. So people that remember when this happened last time, and I was actually in the business in '08, so I saw it happen. I told people, look, this is a good house. This is a good value. 50 years ago, it was worth this. 20 years ago, it was worth this. Now it's worth this. You'll see a solid uptrend into value, but it didn't evaluate 6 times more than what it made, a decade ago. That's what's happening now. So that's where the jigginess is in the market. And the expectation is the housing demand is going to keep pushing that up. But the pay rates in America don't support that. People can't afford that. So you still have a housing shortage because now you've taken the housing that is available and you've driven it up to such an extreme price that people can't pay for it. So what people are doing is they're renting properties, etc. And the rent rates are going up for the same reason because the market rates on everything else are going up. So the way that corrects itself is there's a bubble burst and then it drops back down to a reasonable rate and then it can get normalized for 10 to 15 years and then you'll have this whole stupidity happen again. The whole cycle takes about 30 years time. So if you look back in the 70s, you'll see that it happened. You'll see that it dipped a little bit in the 90s, but it really took a hit in '08. And so that's what we're headed to again. So the young lady's point the other day was, I have a fixed income. I have a good job, but I can't afford jack squat. So here's the response. I live in Texas. So in Texas, there are RV parks. Okay, I mentioned that first. There are RV parks that you can live in. In Texas, there's been a housing shortage for decades. So in Texas, people got creative with the housing situation. So there was RV parks. So people would buy and live in an RV and do that for 20 years. And then there's trailer parks. That's the next step up. There's trailer parks across the country. So in a trailer park, you can rent a trailer there, or you can buy your own trailer and rent a lot in the park. And so if rents are $1,600 around, typically trailer parks, it only costs you $400 a month plus utilities. So if you're buying your own trailer house and living in a trailer park, it's extremely less expensive to live in an area that you might want to live in by living in a trailer park. And people talk about safety and everything else. Look, trailers right now are from a build standpoint, are safer than homes that were built 20 years ago. Trailer parks right now are safer than apartment complexes that you may live in. It's less people. It's a community. You can't smell the weed coming through the walls. If you live in an apartment in the United States and you don't smoke pot, you're going to be smelling it all the time because the person above you, beside you, below you, next to you smokes 24/7 apparently. And so all apartments in the country now stink to high heavens with that nonsense. So if you don't like that, or worse, you have a allergic reaction to that, you're going to be in deep trouble if you're trying to live in an apartment. But here's the point. The biggest difference between those that came before that greedy generation and us now was they owned stuff where we rent it. Okay? So I own my home. I own my cars. I have financially put money away out of every paycheck. And I say this all the time. If you can put 30% away, put 30% away. And I don't care if it hurts. Eat cheap. Don't go out to eat. If you're going to do something like that, give you one day a month that you get to go out to eat, and then you can look forward to it and you celebrate it. This competing with the Joneses to have the nice, that's stupidity. That's how you run out of money and have nothing. Okay, that's what the Joneses do in these situations. They lose everything and go live with their mom and dad. My point is, if you're like I was, where you don't have anything to fall back on but yourself, then this is what you need to do. You need to own something. So my suggestion is this, and this is to the young lady that asked the questions. I love the questions. Thank you. It made me think about this, and this is a lot of build up to this because people need to be aware of what's coming. So you can look on Facebook, on Marketplace. So some of these RV parks have rules where the trailer has to be so big or it has to be so new. So you want to look at those rules because they don't want junky parks, because that will keep other people from coming and renting. So if you're going to buy an RV and live in an RV, the stuff you own needs to fit inside the RV comfortably, because if you have a spot, you don't want stuff all around it, etc., etc. Same thing if you buy a trailer and live in a trailer park. You want to keep things inside. You don't want to have stuff all around because theft becomes a problem then. People are attracted to your house for the wrong reasons then. But you want to be able to secure your home, which is your RV or your trailer, when you leave, and your stuff be there when you get back. That's a reasonable expectation in most camper parks, or which I'm going to call RV parks, or trailer parks, which we're talking about a trailer house, okay? Some trailer parks will actually let you live in an RV there. Some of them are mixed parks until they get to a certain point, and then they may change the rules. So to that young lady, this is my answer. You have a solid paycheck, right? You have to pay rent right now currently. Some people move into their cars at that point. I couldn't do that, so I wouldn't recommend that. But if you can put money away, I've seen RVs sell for as cheap as $2,000 and $3,000 on Facebook. Okay, so if you can put $250 away a month, in so many months, you can own your own RV. In the meantime, while you're stacking that up, when you have free time for fun, go find a camper, an RV park, or a trailer park that you can park that in. Find rates, talk to the people, get that understanding, get the contract or lease agreement, whatever else. So you're saying, Ben, you're talking about a lease, but you're talking about owning things. Yes, in the beginning, you may have to lease something to get to the point that you own stuff. So also, land prices will come down too when the demand for these houses drops. Okay, so land prices will drop as well. Right now in Texas, land is extreme. When I bought my place, land around here was around $4,000 to $5,000 an acre. Now it's supposedly around $17,000 to $20,000 an acre, which is insane. So if I was going to sell my place, I'd do it right now because I'd make a landslide over what I paid for it. But at the end of the day, they're not making more land, so I would never sell the land. Plus, I have family that lives here, and if they're going to stay here until death do us part, then so will I. But let's get back to the game plan. So if you're renting an apartment, it's expensive. It's extremely expensive. Try to live as cheap as you can. So if you can get a one-bedroom apartment, that's typically the cheaper apartment. They sometimes will have floor plans that are cheaper. Rent the cheapest one you can so you can put as much money away as you can. Obviously, if you're paying a huge car payment, you're not going to be able to do this. So if you have a car that has a huge payment, get rid of it. Okay, it's better to have a car that's paid off, that has a small payment, so you can put your plan in place so you can own something. So to do this as fast as possible, if you buy an RV that's used, and guys, everybody that listens to my channel knows that I only buy used. My socks and my underwear I buy new. Everything else is used. Everything. Okay, you can buy clothes that look brand new used. It's stupid. For anybody that goes into a store and buys new stuff, you're an idiot. That's where you're blowing the majority of your cash. Okay, so buy used and wear it till you wear it out. When I was a kid, you got new shoes when your feet came out of your old shoes. Now people own 3 dozen pairs of shoes. That's lunacy. Okay, choose what you want. I want freedom. So after salvation, the most important thing to me is freedom. So if you've got Jesus Christ, that's number one. Number two will be get to your freedom. So if you can do this, young lady that asked, don't have a car payment, so you can have as much as you are, or as much as you can put away each month going to your savings to buy your RV or buy your trailer. And maybe you look at the cost of those and see what that is. I watch Marketplace daily. I saw a trailer this morning, 2-bedroom, 2-bath for 19 grand. Now, granted, is it going to look like the Ritz? No, it's not. You're going to buy that, and then you're going to make it yours. You're going to fix up each room one at a time. It had good bones, a good solid floor, a good solid roof. Looked at one last weekend because I've got some family that's looking to do something with a home right now. They're listening to what I'm saying because they don't want to take a bath on what they're doing, and they don't want to destroy their finances. In young families, this is what you need to listen to. You cannot take the hit that's going to happen in the mortgage market if you want to be successful in this life. It will take 15 years or more to recover from losing a house that you lost to repossession because you were upside down on it. Okay? It's flagrant. It's coming. You do that to yourself, you could ruin your life. So here's the point. If you buy the RV for $2 grand and you have the lot that you're renting for $400 a month, if you live in an area where the average apartment is $1,500, well, look, you're saving yourself $1 grand a month. So in 12 months, you've saved yourself $12,000. So you can start with an RV and in 12 months' time have enough to upgrade to the trailer. And if you find a trailer house and you find a trailer park to put it in, you may even be able to put it in the same park you're currently in. Then you upgrade your housing, okay, to what you want or what you need size-wise. So if you have a small family, you're given an RV and you put away money for 12 months, you take that money then and buy a trailer so you can upsize. Then you can sell that RV that you own that is an asset for cash to help you put a down payment or to start the payments against the trailer house that you buy. You take that, you put that on the RV park, and you rent that lot for $400 a month, and you continue. You say, Ben, now we got a trailer house. What are we working for now? Next thing you're working for is your land. So you want to find land. And guys, they were telling me this past week that it cost $10,000 to $20,000 to get a water well put in places because of the lack of people who do water wells. It's so extreme, I'm actually probably going to buy a well truck and get into the water well business if I can find guys that know how to do it. If you're seeing this video, you know how to do it, you live close to me, then shoot me an email and I may finance a business for you. Excuse me? Because there's such a demand here that the price is elevated. So hopefully, even if the price falls back, it's still a profitable business if you run it 3 days a week. So water wells are extreme though. So if you can find a piece of property that's already got a water well, already got septic, and already got electric, that can save you a significant amount of money right now. $20K is what they're telling me. So, or if you can buy a rural place that's on a rural water supply, then the rural water supply will run piping and everything else, and then you have water just like you would in a city by a supplier that will have a little bit of chlorine in it that you'll taste, etc. But that is extremely less expensive. Sometimes they'll hook those up for free depending on your address to bring you on as a customer. So I went through a lot right there, but the idea is to show you that there are options to do this as cheap as you possibly can. You just have to make an effort right now. What you don't want to do is buy a brick and mortar home right now with what the market's going to do unless you get it for a price that is reasonable. So if you know what the reasonable market rates were, I would just look at the market 10 years ago. Look at the tax roll. Most tax rolls, and this is how you know it's going to happen. Look at the tax roll. If the tax roll in the area is saying the house is worth $180,000 and the financial companies are saying it's worth $450,000, guess what? $180,000 is what you need to mortgage on the house. You don't need to take out more money than that on the house. Now, if you absolutely must have this house, then mortgage this amount and pay the rest in cash. Okay, because anything you mortgage over what the tax roll is saying, that is your justifiable risk. Okay, so in your mind, when you borrow a certain amount of money against a house that the tax roll says is worth this, you're saying that it's a justifiable risk when you bought it there because you think the market will continue to support this type of inflated rate. That's what that means. Okay, so from a financial standpoint, that's lunacy. At some point, the two are going to correct. That's why the tax roll is so much lower in most places than what the home values are suggesting they should be. So there's a very easy way to check the value of the property. You take the address, you put it into the tax, to the Rusk County, the county tax assessor's office. You put that address in there, it will show you what it's taxed at in the tax rate, and that should be what you're considering mortgaging on the property, no more. Okay, and that is true for most of the country. California, on the other hand, I couldn't tell you. That place is a zoo. I don't know why anybody would live in California. I don't know why anybody would move to California. I don't know anybody would buy California. All right, so this video has gone much longer than I expected it to. So the idea is to that young lady, I understand things are extraordinarily expensive. So you have to think differently. You have to think in a way where you get to own what is yours. So if you have a car payment, get rid of it. Buy a cash car. That's the first thing to do. Buy a cash car as quick as you can. That's going to save you money each month while you're paying rent because you're not going to have a car payment. And get rid of the car payment. Sell that car, get rid of it. Then you have a car that's yours. Take it and pay what's needed. Take the first 2 months of money that you save from car payments. Put that car in the shop. Make sure it's good from a maintenance standpoint. Make sure it's got good parts and everything else. So now you can rely on that car. And so then you have asset. The car is yours. You own it. You're not paying against the note some ridiculous amount and some ridiculous amount of interest. So that's number one. Two is buy the RV, just like what we said. Once you get past that, you save the money that you would have had in a car payment. Could be $500 a month. If that's the case, if you can find an RV for $3,000, guess what? In 6 months' time, you have the money to buy that outright. You get that title. Now you own it. If you have a park that you know you can park that RV in at that point, you can typically pay somebody to move it there for you. It could be the person you buy it from. Could say, hey, can you park it here for me? Give them an extra $200 to take it there, whatever else. So you park it there, you hook it up. Now you've got water, electric, and everything in your RV park. Now you no longer have to pay rent. So then you take the amount that you save from getting rid of that car payment and get rid of rent, and guess what? Now you're saving that much per month. The idea is that each time you pay something off or get rid of some type of payment, that you're taking that money and increasing your savings so you can make the move that you want to make. That RV, you can stay in that RV while you're looking for your land. You don't have to upgrade to a trailer unless you have children, you need more space, etc. You can stay in that RV until you find the land that you want, that you can buy, that has the hookups in place or has the water in place that you need. So you can stay there for as long as possible and put away as much money as possible. So if it's a $500 car payment and $1,500 a month of rent, you're saving yourself $2,000 a month. So in 12 months, you theoretically save $24,000. So each month you do the same thing. You cut the check just like you would, but instead of sending it to the car payment, instead of sending it to the mortgage payment or the rent payment, you take that and you put it into a savings account and you let that stack up. My suggestion about checking and savings, guys, is you have your checking at one bank, your savings at another, so it actually takes an effort to move the money between the two, and that way you can keep the money in your savings. And that old saying that everyone says, rich people say, is you pay yourself first. So every time you get paid, you take that, and if you're tithing, you pay that 10%, and you take the 30% that you're going to keep for yourself, and you pay it into your savings account, paying yourself first, because you're saving up for something. And guys, you should always be saving up for something. Even if you've got your house paid off, your cars are paid off, and everything else, you want to save up because I want to have this much money in my savings. Why? Because once it reaches this much, I'm going to invest it, and I'll start over again. And when you do that, you have this saving mentality. I want to stack my pennies. I want to look at my bank and see how many pennies I have and smile and be like, ha, ha, ha. So when somebody's driving down the street and got the newest whatever and is wearing the newest whatever, I can then go to my bank account and say, ha, 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 because that's what matters. I've got more put away than you do. right? I'm investing more than you do. I own my house. I own my cars. I own my stuff. Because that's freedom. So after salvation, the most important thing in our lives is freedom. People sometimes screw that up and don't get that right for a long time, and things get very difficult and life gets really hard because you don't know that. So this is how you prevent the upcoming doom that's going to happen. It's coming, guys. You can see it. From a trend standpoint, honestly, it's past due. I mean, we probably should have gone into that last year, which certain parts of the country are. If you look at what Florida's going through, southern Florida specifically, you look at what California's doing. Right now, it's already starting. So last time it started in California, then Florida, then you noticed in Texas, New York, New Jersey, and so it kind of came down the East Coast and then moved up from there, and it was a countrywide situation. Well, that's already starting to happen. It's already happened in California. It's already happened in Florida. We're starting to see a little bit in Texas. Things are collapsing value-wise up in New Jersey and New York, so it's starting to happen again just like it did last time. And mark my words, in the next 2 years, you will see that the market will correct. It's going to be brutal. These things ruin people's lives financially because people are over-mortgaged. They're overspending on cars. Guys, they're trying to say a Yukon, a GMC product is worth 140 grand. You've lost your friggin' mind, okay? You don't buy anything new. You buy everything used. You make sure it's good. You certify it. You pay somebody to do it. When you're talking about a car, same thing. You buy everything used and you stack your pennies, because all that matters is how much you own. Okay? Leasing is not owning. Mortgaging is not owning. Borrowing is not owning. What matters is what you own. So if you look at your financial situation and you see the majority of the money you earn each month pays somebody else for what they own that you are borrowing, you need to change that, okay? What matters is what you own. So if you own your car and you have your title, you own that. Insure the crap out of it, so if something happens, you get paid and you can start over again. The idea is each one of these items that you buy, you then insure, so if something happens to it, guess what? You get a check. So you'll never be upside down again. You'll always have value in the things you own. That's why owning stuff in insurance is how people get rich. Okay? That's how people get rich. I hope this is useful to you. I hope it answers some of those questions. This is coming. Take my warning. Mark my words. Do your own research. See what's happening around the country. A lot of the people that were damaged in 2008 are freaking out right now because they're seeing the same things happen again. When groceries get up to where you can't pay, when gas gets out of control, yes, we have wars and all that else going on, but it's in America, spending is what matters. Spending is what determines what happens to our market. The rest of the world really doesn't. Our government screws around with stuff and jacks a lot of stuff up, but typically if you watch spending, the secret to everything is owning and providing. So the beauty of having your own RV and living in a park where you're just paying rent for the spot, and then you do that until you find your own piece of property, and then you buy a piece of property. On that property, you can then plant a garden. You can produce food. You can plant a garden, learn how to jar, learn how to can, have chickens, have goats. You can produce your own eggs, your own milk, your own vegetables, right? Your own meat, if you harvest those animals for meat as well. Then when groceries go out of control, you can have all this stuff frozen, canned, and jarred in your freezer and in your cabinets. And so the money impact that the world is suffering, you're protected from. So after salvation, the most important thing in your life is freedom. And if you're doing what I'm saying in this video and you're not making steps to get out of that so you have what I'm saying, then you're in trouble. You're in danger. Those soft people have created some very hard times for all of Western civilization. So if we don't prepare, you will be a victim of what's coming. If you like information like this and videos such as these, please subscribe. If you know somebody could benefit from this, please share this video with them, especially if they're looking at buying a house right now and in the market to buy a house. This is just a better way to do it where you're not at risk. Okay, when you own something, it's yours, and you can get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home for brand new for $90K. Just saw one last week. Or you can get a repo that needs some work for $26K, and the guy said most likely they take an offer. So most likely I can buy that house for 17 grand. The point is, yes, you may not have 17 grand, but if you can save 3, if you can do something where you're cutting your bills so you can save 3 and buy an RV and live in an RV park and do that for a year so you can save that 12 grand a month that you were blowing in rent, or 17, 18 grand a month that you were blowing in rent based on modern rent prices, That is how you get the money. That's how you save the money. That's how you get the freedom. Now, with a mobile home, you can finance them too. If you've got decent credit, you can do that right now. You can finance a nice mobile home and put it in a park. So you can skip some of these steps if you're going to finance. If you finance something that you buy at a proper price, then that's good. A mobile home new, you should not be paying more than $120,000. If you are, downgrade your expectations a little bit. Don't get all this nice trim and all that, because in the end, that crap doesn't matter. Okay, get something that is yours. Don't pay more than 120 grand. You're not going to take a bath on that. Okay, it will be worth that when you get done paying it off. Also, the mortgage will be small enough that you can save extra money, throw extra money off of it, and pay it quicker. There's tons of options on that. If you want to see specific videos about any of those things I just said, hit me up in the comments or send me an email. Tell me what you'd like to see, and I'll make the video on it, and I'll show you examples if you like. Please share. If you know somebody who could benefit from this, please subscribe. I'm Ben. Be good.